Hello, listeners, and welcome to Spooky Time with Mike and Mindy.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
In this episode, we are going to talk about the 1932 Universal Classic Monsters movie, The Mummy.
The Mummy.
It's an hour and 14 minutes long. Have you seen this one?
I do remember seeing it. I don't remember much about it, though.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my experience with The Mummy is pretty much Brendan Fraser as The Mummy.
I'm smiling right now, listeners. You can't see it, but I am.
Which I love that movie, and every time it's on, I'll watch it. So, and reading the description, I mean, it sounds like this movie is just like the Brendan Fraser Mummy.
Yeah, and like watching the trailer, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like this is the Brendan Fraser movie.
Exactly. So did you want to read the storyline, and then we'll get into some fun details after that?
Sure. In 1921, a field expedition in Egypt discovers the mummy of ancient Egyptian prince Imhotep, who was condemned and buried alive for sacrilege. Also found in the tomb is the Scroll of Thoth, which can bring the dead back to life. One night, a young member of the expedition reads the scroll out loud, and then goes insane, realizing that he has brought Imhotep back to life. 10 years later, disguised as a modern Egyptian, the mummy attempts to reunite with his lost love, an ancient princess who has been reincarnated into a beautiful young woman.
Yeah, so like the Brendan Fraser movie. Pretty
Totally.
much.
Yeah, sounds like about the same plot, except the timeline is a little bit different.
Yeah.
This one, it's 10 years, whereas in Brendan Fraser's movie, it's like
Immediately.
8 hours.
Yeah, it's like everything happens.
Everything happened so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but this movie's pretty short, so it's probably just like a 10 years later or something to tell us the timeline. I don't know.
Just like SpongeBob.
Yeah.
10 years later.
So I did a little research, and Boris Karloff is the mummy in this movie. And he actually plays Frankenstein as well, in both Frankenstein and then also Bride of Frankenstein. I don't know if it's in more Frankenstein movies as well, but what I found really interesting was he actually is the narrator of How the Grinch Stole Christmas from 1966.
Mm-hmm.
And he won a Grammy for the How the Grinch Stole Christmas song, which I thought was a really fun fact. So
No, that definitely was. Yes,
Yeah,
Boris
and-
Karloff is, he's been around. He's involved in many cool things.
yeah, and I know I had heard his name before, so I guess I just never really thought about where he was from and all that stuff. So, but we did watch the trailer, and this movie looks kind of gross looking, like the way that like the bandages and stuff were peeling and moving and whatnot. I don't know if you caught that, but
I think what may have led to it a bit is that it's black and white.
yeah.
So I think that the way that it's shot, or the color scale of it, benefits the movie greatly.
Yeah.
Meaning,
for
if
sure.
it's not in full color, it's not 3D, it's not Ultra HD.
Yeah.
The fact that the movie looks kind of old and musty, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
it
true.
Kind of fits it really well.
Yeah, I think it looks awesome.
One thing I just thought of right now, so I had to look it up. So, the Mummy and the timeline and why there's a 10-year difference. Mm-hmm. So, they're saying in 1921, right?
Yeah.
So 1922 was the actual the curse of King Tutankhamun,
Oh, okay.
when they opened up his tomb, and then there was a bunch of random events. So that's what spurned the myth of the curse of the mummy. Right, in real life, that was in 1922.
Interesting.
So they based this then, and then the movie came out 10 years after that actual
Yeah.
uncovering of that.
Huh.
So they kind of said, oh, back in 1921, as in right around the time of King Tutankhamun's
Yeah.
opening, and then 10 years later, aka modern time of when the
Oh.
movie's coming out.
Interesting.
So-
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting way that they played with the real world to kind of, make people afraid of mummies, because at the time it was like a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, a
Well,
real thing that people were afraid of.
yeah, for sure. I also, like, I used to be super into, like, Egyptology and,
Oh, yeah.
like, all those things.
Same.
And, like,
Same.
I wish I had gone into that more, but I thought it was, like, too nerdy or whatever, and I wouldn't be cool back in, like, elementary school.
Yeah, right.
Because at one point I brought in this really cool hieroglyphic set of stamps that my parents had that I was, like, obsessed with, and then all the kids just thought I was super lame, and so I just kind of was like, all right, I'm just gonna not do this anymore. But I used to read like kid story chapter books and stuff all about like King Tut and like all these things, and I was fascinated by all of it, but then it just kind of dropped off. And I think there's also a Goosebump book that has the mummy and like the mummy returns, and like this kid gets like this mummy hand or something, because I feel like I read that one not that long ago.
That sounds about right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was really funny. We'd been dating for quite a while. I think we were living together, and or when we were moving in together, I think we were looking at all the stuff that we had, and we found out that, and I've looked it up here, it was the Fun with Hieroglyphs from the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art.
For the stamps.
For the stamps.
Yeah.
It was made in 1990. And you had a set, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I had one of these growing up, too.
Yeah.
And then, you just kind of looked over at me, you were like, oh. No, I'm kidding. That's not what happened. But, so, I was avidly interested in Egyptology, too. I always was fascinated by it, and, the Sphinx, and, of course, the thought that always boggled my mind, which is that they thought that the Sphinx predated ancient Egyptians, and that they took this existing statue and modeled it after a pharaoh on the head when it was a lion to begin with. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's just so old, and I don't know, just it's really cool. I think it's really cool that that long ago, and they created such things without the help of aliens.
Or maybe.
No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, so we're gonna watch the movie and then we'll be back unless you got anything else to cover. I mean, I'm excited because I love this kind of stuff. So
yes, I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna try and set my expectations a little low.
Although my expectations are always low, but I mean, I think it'll still be kind of fun.
I don't know if it's gonna live up to
what, the Wolfman or the Invisible Man.
No.
I think it'll beat both of those.
I was gonna say Brendan Fraser.
Well, absolutely not. That movie is like top 5, like 5-star amazing movies.
Yeah,
100%
totally.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
Probably not.
We'll have to see how this one stacks up. Okay.
All right, we'll be back. Listeners, we're back.
We are back.
So let's unravel what happened in that movie.
Yeah, let's. It was actually pretty solid.
It was, yeah.
Like it had a story. It followed. It all flowed well.
Yeah.
The only thing that felt a little odd was the love story, quote unquote, between this young archaeologist and Helen, the supposed reincarnation of, and then I don't know how they pronounced it, but I'm just gonna go with the pronunciation of the 90s, which is Anaxunamun.
Yeah, it was a little different. They pronounced it,
but it was slightly different, but a little bit the same.
From the original Brendan Fraser.
The original, no. So yeah, that part felt a little odd because he was just like, oh, well, I fell in love with this mummified woman. Can you believe it? Hey, you know what? You look kind of like her. Therefore, I love you, too.
Yeah, that's what happened with the archaeologist. So he ended up... The mummy came back to life. And then in like 10 years, he came to the people that were digging up the site and was like, hey, you should look over here. And so they did, and then that's where they found the princess and all of her stuff buried. And the archaeology guy, he meets Helen, and he's just like, yeah, so you totally remind me of this, like, dead corpse. Pretty much, like, best pickup line ever, am I right? Like...
Who could refuse?
Yeah, no, that was awful. Apparently, though, she liked it enough, and they kind of fell in
I'll
love.
say she saw potential.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
she didn't. Yeah, I don't know.
It's-
It was fine.
Yeah.
There was a cat and there was a dog, and I liked that part.
Yes, there was a cat and there was a dog.
I
although,
am sad that the dog was murdered.
No.
I think he was murdered.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
off screen.
Off screen. Yeah, yeah. You just kind of
They
knew.
alluded to
And then
it.
she said that my dog died, and I don't remember how, because she kept getting possessed by the mummy guy to come, like, go see him or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you've seen the Brendan Fraser mummy, it's pretty much the same, but way less funny and in black and white, and yeah.
A little less action.
No
but
more,
the-
not the special effects and all of that either.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is, maybe when we see Dracula, I'll find out that I was wrong, but at least, God, again with the 90s, right? My reminiscence of Bram Stoker's Dracula is that this plot follows the same kind of thing. Like reincarnated woman that villain is in love with, and also person of the time in love with her as well. So there's a fight, and then they all go back to a house, and she's supposed to be laying in bed, and she can only think about the bad guy when the young guy loves her now, and
Yeah, it's pretty much that.
yeah,
Except this
so-
one was like hypnotized most of the time.
And a lot of the stories too, that all these movies are based off of are like 19th century novels.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's entirely possible that the original novels inspired the themes of a lot of these movies.
Sure.
Like, obviously the locations change, the villains change, the or monsters or what have you, but it's
Yeah.
always seems to be like the same type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a movie I could just pop in and kind of watch if I'm in a classic mood, stormy kind of day, which today it was exactly that, so it was perfect for that.
And I did like it the most of the ones we've watched so far.
I agree. Out of this one, Wolfman and the Invisible Man, this one I think is my favorite because it flowed the best. It didn't make me feel uncomfortable. Everything made sense. Like,
I liked the effects too.
yeah.
So like Boris Karloff as the mummy.
Yeah.
So I liked all that. I thought
It was weird because whenever I think mummy, I think just like wrapped up in bandages and stuff. But he only was briefly in the beginning before he became animated and came back to life. And I just thought it was weird because when I think mummy, I think like wrapped up in bandages. But even in the Brendan Fraser mummy, which I'm going to apparently reference the entire time, he looks like a normal person too. But this one, the mummy, Imhotep was actually buried alive because he was trying to raise the princess back from the dead. So they were like, oh, no, sacrilege, and we're just going to bury you alive. Whereas in Brendan Fraser mummy, I'm pretty sure he was killed for doing the same thing, but then like his tongue is cut out and his eyes are taken or whatever, and he has to like go kill people to refill his body.
It was a bit more gruesome of a movie
For
because
the
the
90s,
body parts were taken and moved.
Yeah, whereas that did not happen in this one. So
No, yeah, this one.
this one's pretty chill compared to
that, yeah.
Yeah.
The ending. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. So the reincarnated, Helen or Orynox she prays to Isis, and Isis smites Imhotep. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and that totally makes sense because too.
And I like that. Like, the Egyptian gods, took this guy out.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't.
Well, and the gods, so he stole from the gods is essentially the idea, when he was trying to raise her from the dead. So it makes sense that in the end the gods are the ones that get him.
Because he stole that spell or that
script that was not supposed
that
to be
Isis used to bring back Osiris.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So he had stolen that, so the gods were angry, and so, I mean, that was cool, and I also liked how even the princess brought back into this body was like, no, don't kill me. Like, I want to be alive, and what you did was wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was like, no, I loved you in the past life, but I love someone else in this life, and
Yeah,
I
and she-
recognize that I was that person back then, but I'm this person now.
Yeah, and there's like this conflict of which female is taking over within that body, which soul, and I think it was cool to see that the princess recognized that this wasn't her life, you know, and
Yeah.
was like, no, this is wrong, and like stepped up against
Mm-hmm.
the Imhotep rather than being like, awesome, babe, like, thanks for doing this for me. So I liked that because there was an extra layer of conflict that I didn't expect in the movie.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I would recommend the movie. I mean, that kind of wraps up that part of the conversation.
Well, do we talk about the Nubian?
Oh, if you want, do you have something to say about it?
Oh, just that it was obviously a white guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah. I don't really have anything to say because it's an old movie.
Yep.
So.
No, I know. I didn't know that. It felt like they filmed on location, though, right? I mean,
Like at a studio lot, I feel like part of it was definitely on the studio lot, but then part of it,
yeah. Well,
scenes were from Egypt, but I don't think.
Well, because you could tell that a lot of the costumes and stuff were like,
Yeah.
Used in a lot of movies. They had a lot of ancient Roman, ancient Egyptian movies, a lot on the studio.
Yeah.
So. I remembered what I did want to talk about, which was the animations. So before the movie started, or rather the title sequence of the movie, they had this like spinning shot where it's like the Sphinx and then a pyramid, and then on the backside of the pyramid it's written "The Mummy."
Oh yeah,
I thought
looked super cartoony.
That was super cool. And then at the end,
it reminded me of that Monty Python movie where they have the pyramid and the letters. Is it the Life one or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Life of Brian? Because I've not.
Oh, okay.
I haven't
Never
seen that
mind
one
then.
a lot.
But it reminded me of like one
It's
of those
entirely
type
possible,
of
yeah.
logos. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's this big climactic end, and the Imhotep's dead, and then it's like the end,
and it's like some like
and
peppy music.
Yeah, it goes.
And...
Yeah, it's like peppy music, and like there's the universal globe in the bottom, and that's like it's a universal movie. Da da da. The end.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that.
I love the logos that are before and after. Like, they have the classic Universal logo and stuff. Like, they'll show the newer one now, but then still show you the classic logo of, like, this little, like, plane, like, this, like, going around the globe. And I don't know. I love that.
Yeah. No, same. That's why I brought it up.
So, do you think is there going to be a mummy room, and what would you expect to see in it?
Well, again, the challenge is, right, it's not going to be a black and white house.
Sure.
But it seems like they're going to take the original movies and then bring them to the modern age.
Yeah. So do you think we'll see Brendan Fraser?
Or maybe set in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be a little challenging. I think...
I feel like
I want to have a God Smite.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Why not? I feel like that would be the room, is like the museum room.
Or a tomb. Like, you just
Yeah.
go in and there's the giant God statues and pillars all around you. And
Yeah.
there's like sand on the corners. Obviously, you don't walk through the sand, but
Sure.
there's sand along the corners of the wall. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
Well, I feel like the museum, like, so they took all the artifacts of the princess back to the museum in Cairo.
That's true.
And that's where he was performing, the mummy was performing all of
the
these
rituals and all that.
and things, and that's where he was going to kill her. So I could see us
think
going
that
to
room?
the museum.
Okay.
Yeah. And having, like, the area where she would be, like, sacrificed, and, like, having the burning old mummy. So, like, he actually burned the body of the original princess because he's like, I didn't like fall in love with the body, it's the soul we need or something, I don't know, and then he burns it, and I'm like, is that actually a fireplace though, or are you just burning down the museum? But apparently it was actually a fireplace.
Yeah.
So good for him, I guess. But I could see us walking through there and seeing a fire, seeing the girl screaming, seeing like the guy and like his dad showing up to save her, and then obviously Imhotep, right?
Yeah, well, you have to have him.
Well, yeah.
He's the mummy.
Yeah.
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 So, like, that would have to happen. But here's the thing, though, is I don't think we're going to see that scene because if it's supposed to be a Halloween Horror Nights house and a room in a house, it's supposed to be scary, meaning he's going to be the mummy. He's not going to be the person.
But he doesn't do anything scary.
I know he doesn't do anything scary in the movie as the mummy, but that doesn't... I don't feel like that's going to matter. He's going to be more menacing if he's a mummy, if he's not, like, looking like a normal dude.
Yeah.
So he's going to be mummified.
Sure.
I feel.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe there's going to be some kind of factor of fright with the gods, like a loud voice or sound, light, something, you know what I mean? Like, if it's not going to be the mummy and bandages that's going to menace you, it's got to be something with the gods then. But there's got to be an element that, you know, frightens you. Or it could be him as the man, you know, in the reincarnated form, holding the knife that comes at you. Like,
yeah, I would assume it would be like the
yeah,
part where he's trying to kill her.
Yeah, something with, you know, the ceremonial knife. Like, something's got to get you.
Well, and it's not like he's not scary, because he's obviously very tall, and his skin is all flaky and dry and weird.
And with that hat, he's even taller.
What?
The hat that he's wearing.
Oh, yeah, that hat. But he's not wearing the hat when he's trying to kill her. But yeah, I don't know. That's the only scene I could imagine. I mean, where else would they...
You know what? Here's the great thing about Halloween Horror Nights. We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, I guess.
It'll be great. And we'll come back to this video and we'll be like,
It's a podcast, but yeah.
Sorry, this podcast will say, yeah, what did we know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, one thing I know is they always find a way to get you. And they're very imaginative, and it's always good.
Yeah.
Was there anything else about the movie that you thought about? Or?
Not really. I just enjoyed it overall. It flowed really well. I didn't pause to be like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah, all of it seemed to make sense. And it wasn't so singularly focused either. I liked that it started off with 10 years prior and then went to modern time and gave time for, you know, Imhotep to regain his full body and then scheme and look for her. Yeah. I did appreciate that. Yeah. And I liked that they had the multiple scenes, like the museum in Cairo, the dig site off somewhere in Egypt, and I did...
Well, and then, like, when he was... because they went back and showed him getting bound and everything, too, and then buried alive. I liked that, too. Like, it was so much more, like, of a full movie.
Yes, rather than just, like, I was buried alive. They actually go back and show you the ritual where he's being punished.
Yeah,
and
I did like that a lot.
Buried alive for defying the gods. And, yes.
Yeah.
This was so far the best one.
Definitely.
I don't know how they're going to necessarily frighten us with it. I'm looking forward to how they do it.
Yeah.
But as a movie, anyway, as far as all the classic monsters go that I've seen so far, this one's the best one. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. It's got the most story, the most characters that are actually, like, fleshed out and have depth.
Fleshed out.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I agree. I mean, that about wraps up what I need to say.
Does it?
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
It wraps it up.
Okay.
All right. That wraps it up, guys.
That's a wrap.
Bye.